Thank you all very much. So we're seeing the possibility of how solution focus can change conversations. We've experienced that here. And there's enthusiasm in the room and amongst the panel for it as an approach. People that don't know so much about it or haven't had the experience, they're interested in results. What difference does it make? What are the results? So perhaps you could each say something about the results that you've observed, that you've been aware of, whether they're quantitative or qualitative within your organisations. We'll take the same model as well. So what are the results that you get to see?
I think the question around high-performing teams earlier on made me think of one of the riskier projects we did with SF at Tate was with computer engineers and web designers. And a team that the team leader, the head, described it to me, Vilma, you have to understand, these people are computer geeks, and that's what computer geeks do. They have a problem, they go away, and they write code, and they tell the computer, fix the problem. And that's how problems get fixed in the computer world. And now you can ask these people to become facilitators, educators. We're undergoing that digital transformation at Tate, and therefore we wanted this particular department of the engineers and the web designers to become enablers and facilitators and relationship holders. So we took them away a year ago in an SF away day, and it was transformational. And I couldn't think of a department that this approach went totally against how these people approach problems in their environment, and completely transformed the leader, and he went out there and sold this idea of digital transformation at Tate as an organizational change product, right from our trustees to everybody else, and we're right through it at the moment. And I'd say a year ago, I would have said this is tough. This is a tough gig for SF, and we seem to have cracked it.
So the result was that the project went ahead in a good way.
The project went ahead with people who championed this project that were the most unlikely champions for it a year ago, and we'll see it through, because the conversations we're having are not the conversation. The governance isn't working and the technical system isn't working. The conversation is, when we won the award, that BAFTA or that web award or whatever, we did it like this, so let's replicate that.
So they're talking about success, yes, using that conversation to achieve what the organisation wants, yes, strategically, and what benefits them as a team.
Yes, yeah. One example.
Michael? Some results either within Reading or you've noticed elsewhere.
I think there are three layers to this probably, one of which is the results for the individuals and the members of staff concerned. And we were regularly doing surveys of the staff that had been through the development programme and solutions focused and working with the team, and the feedback we got was increasingly positive over the course of the 2 or 3 year programme. Increasing levels of staff satisfaction with their role, increasing levels of motivation, and increasing levels of positive feedback around their managers who'd also been through the programme with them. And one of the quotes that I picked off some of the material I picked up recently, and these were free-form quotes, was, "I am so totally solutions focused," as a member of staff. So they're kind of absolutely imbued with the principles and the values. So across the piece, across a fairly challenged workforce, and some of this extended out into the Children's Trust, which are other agencies outside of the council for which we were responsible, we're also reporting similar results at the individual level. At the team and service level, we were able to turn around the children's safeguarding team in the shortest time at that stage any authority had turned around and an adequate children's service, by all the measures that Ofsted use and all the metrics and all the indicators they use in terms of initial and core assessments of children at risk, in terms of children in care. Across all of the measures, I think we turned the service around in something like 15 months from inadequate to good, which is pretty much, that sounds a long time to do that, but these are deep-seated cultural behaviour issues. That was a pretty quick turnaround. Solutions Focus was clearly a part of that, focusing on the positives in this and what could be done rather than what the problems that still were. And then at a greater, I think, systemic level, almost across the organisation as a whole, it did spread out into other managers and other services, perhaps not deeply embedded in the same way as it was in children's services. But two particular things came out of that sustainable piece of work in terms of results were that it led to a groundbreaking, I think quite innovative programme of parents supporting parents in a particularly challenged, intergenerationally disadvantaged community in Reading, whereby the solutions-focused approach had gone across the team of staff working in that area out to the community, and then we applied some of the thinking to actual members of the public, real people, not just staff. These were real members of the community, taking on board this training development, taking on board this thinking, and then making a couple of presentations back into the organisation about the projects that they'd started, the thinking they'd been doing, and the capacity they built not only within their community but in themselves, and the resilience that they built up, and the new skills and new outlook they'd adopted. So that was kind of outward-looking results, which were very, very tangible, with projects and things happening on the ground that you could feel, touch, smell and see. And another one I just mentioned, which was the lovely tagline, there was a particularly good solutions-focused champion we had in the Children's Services team called Helen Leshevich. She moved on from Reading around the same time, so she's been out of Reading for about 2.5 years, went to Newport and is now in Monmouthshire. I was in Wales recently, arranged to meet her for a bit of an update on what they were doing and what was going on and her perspective on this. And she's now applying solutions-focused approaches to some of the work going on in Monmouthshire, which is widely regarded as the most innovative and forward-looking local authority in Wales. Some of the results at various levels.
Yeah, thank you. Results within Lufthansa. What did you observe or can report on?
We managed to create a company that changed from working on order. It was a nearshore company, all orders given from Germany. People recruited with the profile of taking orders into a company that took full ownership for quality, for costs, and it led to that customers regularly came and come to Hungary, extraordinarily satisfied. Sales, meanwhile, discovered Hungary, so they come with all of the prospects because the Hungarian people are not working in a garage. They are highly skilled engineers, highly motivated. They are young. They want to open the world for themselves. Yeah? So they are not like some people in the more mature companies, frustrated. Yeah? And so that is something that contributes to the sales of the group a lot and to customer satisfaction. And it's a company where people love to work. Yeah? So they love to come every morning. And that led to the commercial results. So we have been outperforming all measurements every year. In the last 4 years we have been cutting costs by 40% by developing a solution-focused way of lean methodology, also of the Toyota way. And that worked very nicely.
Thank you, Monica. Tim, you gave a sort of global picture of where you started and where it ended up. Do you want to pick out some results along the way that are significant or relevant, please?
Our business is in the private sector. It's got a construction background, developed through into facilities management support services. Private sector supplying public sector. Outsourcing, the dirty words of public sector against private sector and contention around whether it should be third sector involvement in there. So there's a dilemma in our marketplace. We've chosen to work in an environment where local government funding is being cut, and to make life even more difficult for ourselves, we've chosen to go and work in a libraries arena. 2008 we won our first libraries contract. Nobody will know that John Lang the builder runs libraries in a London borough. Now we run 4 London authorities' libraries altogether. There are 33 separate ways of running a library service inside the M25. In this very small country in the world, there are still 33 different ways of running a library service inside the M25. There's £250 million a year spent on libraries inside the M25 every year, £1 billion a year spent on libraries in England alone every year. And there's so many different ways of doing business. Our business now has a plan that it's developed that could save 75 million out of the 250 million for local government and improve services. So with all the activity that we've gone through, we can deliver more for less. We can smile at this point in time, but we're absolutely doing it. We're running 40 plus libraries in London at the moment without anybody knowing. They're badged as the local authority. And the teams of people that have come over have all transferred into our organisation from the public sector, from local government, from the library, leisure and culture market into this privatised organisation. And probably one of the biggest satisfactions has come when the unions have approached us during procurement and said, we're fundamentally opposed to outsourcing, we're fundamentally opposed to privatisation, we do not believe in this. But if they do have to go anywhere, we'd like them to come to your company. And that's massive for us. Really, really good, because we can't push back the tide of cost saving, but we have tools and techniques in our organisation. We've made librarians positive. Well, they were actually, they were anyway. They were anyway, but they'd been suppressed and driven down, and cuts, and problems, and underfunding, and dilapidated buildings, and all of a sudden this opportunity has been created to save a market sector rather than close it down. And it's been a fabulous journey to date. Now we have 4 out of 151. How do you scale that one? That's great.
I was going to ask you that in a moment.